This is the White Coat Investor Podcast, Milestones to Millionaire, celebrating stories of success along the journey to financial freedom.
This is Milestone to Millionaire Podcast number 207. A rural surgeon gets back to broke. One of the most underrated financial moves in medicine is working locum tenens. It pays significantly more on average, and you can work locums full-time or on the side of your full-time. When you work with CompHealth, the number one staffing agency, they cover your housing and travel costs, which on top of higher pay, really adds up. Locums also gives you more control of your career, allowing you to go where you want, when you want, with a schedule that works for you. It's the perfect way to get ahead financially while getting focused on what you love. Whether it's locum tenens or a regular permanent position, go to whitecoatinvestor.com/comphealth to build your career your way with the power of CompHealth. All right, don't forget, Expert Witness School. The sign up ends today. So if you wanted to take on that side gig, learn a little more about that side gig. Most people with the first case they do pay back the cost of the course. But we're throwing in an extra. We're giving you a free WCI course, our Continuing Financial Education 23 course, an $800 value if you enroll in the Expert Witness course. You can do that at whitecoatinvestor.com/expertwitness. Physicians charge a typical range of $500 to $900 an hour for expert work, and typical retainer of $2,500 to $3,500 per case. That course is going to pay for itself with one case and is generally tax deductible as a business expense, or you can use CME funds to enroll. You can launch and build an expert witness business. You can understand the process of case review and deposition. You can put your existing skills to work in a new way, and you can increase your income on your own time. Again, the sign up, whitecoatinvestor.com/expertwitness. Enrollment ends today, the day this podcast is dropping. So make sure you get signed up and check that out. All right, we've got a great episode today. We got a doc who's back to broke, one of my favorite milestones out there to celebrate. But stick around afterward. We're going to talk about a few nuances with Backdoor Roths and Mega Backdoor Roths. Our guest today on the Milestones to Millionaire podcast is Dennis. Dennis, welcome to the podcast.
Grateful to be here, Jim. Thanks.
Let's introduce you a little bit to the audience. Tell us what you do for a living, how far you are out of training, what part of the country you live in, et cetera.
I'm a rural critical access general surgeon in the Midwest. I'm just over 2 years out of training. My other main job is as a major in the Army National Guard, and I have several trauma-related side gigs.
Very cool. Well, thank you for your service, both in the civilian community and the military community. Tell us about the milestone we're celebrating today. What did you just accomplish?
Well, I was doing my end of the year net worth calculations and found that excluding my home equity, I'm now back to broke.
Awesome. Congratulations. Maybe the most important milestone, almost certainly the first one most people hit. So congratulations to you on accomplishing that. Let's break down the numbers. Let's talk about your assets. What are your assets right now?
Right now, I've got the majority of my assets in pre-tax accounts. My 401k from residency and 403b around $125,000. My wife and I both have Roth IRAs, combined about 65. We have a taxable account with 60,000 or so, and 529s for our kids, for about 45,000. So totaling just under 300,000 in equities. I have a good amount in high yield savings accounts. About 120, 150,000 or so, including I've got a separate business savings account for those side gigs, and then my emergency fund.
Okay. So not insubstantial assets. I mean, this is, might even be seven figures of assets, it sounds like, when I add it all up. But there's quite a bit on the other side of the ledger here, too. Tell us about your liabilities, about your debts.
Yes, sir. Well, I do have a $675,000 mortgage still. I'm overpaying that to try to have that done by age 50. And I still have $460,000 in student loans.
Okay. $460,000 in student loans. What's the plan there?
Public service loan forgiveness. I'm about 3 years away.
Public service loan forgiveness. Your main job qualifies as a civilian.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, very cool. So how many years you got left until you expect to receive that?
Should be Mid 2027, I'll have 120 qualifying months of employment, and then I'll see.
Okay.
I'm going to have to figure out if I can hopefully buy back some of this forced save plan forbearance or whatever. But
Yeah, it's not quite clear how that's going to work yet as we're recording this. It might be clear by the time you guys are hearing it, but a lot of people wondering about that right now. But it sounds like 2.5 years out or so, you should be getting PSLF. That'll be a huge boost to
it'll
your
be a
net
big
worth,
one.
another almost $500,000.
Looking at my spreadsheets, I might be somewhere, around that $1 million net worth when that clears.
Okay. So what did you owe when you left training? What did you owe on your student loans?
It was about 450. I really didn't gain very much interest during residency. There's a good amount that was on the interest pause, and I was on. I've got 4 children, so we had on the repay plan. Our payment was practically nothing, and interest wasn't accruing much.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that. So, yeah, if you had 4 children while you were in training, you probably had at least a couple while you were in resident or while you're in med school. Yes.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we
So
had.
what was going through your head in med school? This family of 4 plus, you're taking out, $400,000 plus in loans for this career. Did that worry you back then?
So when I started medical school, I made the mistake of uh, taking a gap year and living in the wrong state. So I ended up with out-of-state tuition, and that started adding up quickly. I considered HPSP or something to pay for my medical school up front, but examining the options, I really didn't want to go the active duty route. I really liked the National Guard route. And so I got into that with the option of maybe using their loan repayment program. But I didn't have any kids in medical school until I met my wife my 3rd year. And she was kind enough to start a family with me. Had a head start. I adopted her 2 sons from her first marriage, and we added one of our own the 4th year of medical school and another one during residency.
Okay. Very,
So
very cool. No
to answer your
pressure there. Now
question,
you owe three
yeah,
or $400,000, and you've got an insta family, right?
that's right. So that's when the pressure was on, and I realized I really needed to educate myself a little bit more about financial planning. I bought your book and started learning up.
And it turns out that the first few things you learn are really high yield, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And I just had to get over the regret of getting myself into that situation, but kind of have to take it as it is, come up with a plan, adapt, and overcome, right?
Yeah. Okay, so 2 years out of training, approximately what's your income been the last couple of years?
So my first full year out of training was broken up by a deployment. So I lost about 4 months of my full income, but I did have, I don't know, 50,000 that wasn't taxed since it was technically a combat zone. So that first year out, I was maybe a little under 400,000. Second full year out, a little over 500, and with my side gigs now, I'm hoping to get over 600 this year.
Very cool. And is your wife working or not working?
She's stayed home for the past decade to take care of all those kids.
Okay, so it's all on your income. Now, how much of your income the last couple of years do you think went toward building wealth? Either, building up your emergency fund or saving for retirement or paying down debt?
Probably the majority of it. I just, for my end of year calculations, our savings rate last year, including the sale of our home, was about 42% gross and 31% taxes. And we lived on about 26%. So about $160,000 a year. We live comfortably.
Very cool.
But
You can build wealth in a hurry at that rate, can't you?
yes, sir, we can.
Okay, so tell us about this conversation that you had at some point. Now, it might not have been before you got married or even just after you got married, but at some point you started becoming financially literate, and you and your spouse sat down and talked about what you wanted to do financially with your lives. Tell us about that conversation.
Well, we had all those conversations, as we were preparing to get married. Luckily, we were very much on the same page. Um, she really came from a background where she had no debt at all. She had a little bit in her 529 still. She didn't even have a credit card. She had no credit history. And I grew up in a family that was, debt averse. My mother was an immigrant from the Philippines. My father was a Navy SEAL that went into IT, and it was always buy cars cash, don't take out loans. They were able to help a little bit with undergrad, but the student loans kind of started there. We just always had the plan to try to stay out of debt and live a good life.
Now, there's a lot of people out there that aren't in a situation all that different from yours. Maybe they've already got a family in med school or residency. They've got $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in student loans, and they think, "Man, just getting back to broke would be awesome. I want to do what this guy did." What advice do you have for that person?
You've got to leverage the skills that you already have. As a professional student, or you already know how to study well. So put a little bit of that energy towards learning the basics of financial planning, basics of budgeting. Do as much as you can for your lifestyle, and your preferences. Hire out if you need to, but you got to get a plan together. You need to know where you want to go, get an idea of the variables that are going to affect your getting there, and then most importantly, you have to take action and actually do something about it. Even just doing that, whether you have a well-formulated plan or not, is going to get you 90% of the way there. If you can plan ahead, adapt, you're going to get there. And then you just got to remember to take a moment from time to time when you achieve something to look back, reflect, celebrate, and enjoy it. And don't get trapped into the high achievers mindset of, okay, what's next? Okay, what's next? Because you'll look up one day and realize that you forgot to smell the roses.
Now, there's a bunch of general surgeons out there listening to this, and they're like, "What does he mean, trauma side gigs? Tell us about these side gigs."
So I've had an interest in trauma all through residency. I fought back and forth. I always wanted to do the rural surgery, but it was hard not to give into the temptation of the trauma critical care. I did train to become an ATLS instructor and course director. So I continued that as an attending, and have become a rural trauma team development course instructor as well. I've taken on trauma medical director positions at my level 4 trauma centers. And I also have recently started a independent contract with a level 2 trauma center that's just 30 minutes away from where we live in the country. And that's a larger source of 1099 income. And lastly, the most recent job I took on is a medical director for a SWAT team at the sheriff's office in the city.
Very cool. Another interesting thing about your progress that you've made, your pathway that you're on, is that you're practicing rurally. And that is becoming less and less common these days, despite the fact there's probably some substantial financial benefits to doing so. It's generally less expensive to, build a home and live in a rural location. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's been like practicing medicine in a rural location and living a financial life there, and what benefits you've seen, what challenges you've seen?
I think it's the best way to live personally. My wife and I agree on that. We moved out here to an area in the Midwest where my sister's a dentist, and, her daughters can go to school with our kids. The cost of living is obviously very low in rural areas. The fulfillment of your job and appreciation in these communities is out of this world. Talk about self-esteem on your way to self-actualization, right? The administrative overhead is practically non-existent. You've got personal relationships with the CEOs of the small hospitals, and you really are such a contributing member of the team overall. Financially, it works out great. Especially in the Midwest, it's a highly needed specialty, and the ratio of the pay to the cost of living really can't be beat from a geographic arbitrage standpoint.
Very cool. So all of you docs out there in Manhattan and the Bay Area and DC, et cetera, the water's fine. Come on in, right?
Yeah, if it's the way you want to live, then you can't beat it. We've got, in that house that we have, that $675,000 mortgage, That's, that gets us, 5,600 square feet and 46 acres, and we're in forever home at this point.
46 acres.
Yes, sir.
What are you doing with the 46 acres? Are you hunting on it? Are you farming it? You just look at it? What do you do with 46 acres?
So we use about 10 of them ourselves. We've, chickens and goats and, working on some other animals. My wife wants to raise her own turkey every year for Thanksgiving. And, we want to get pigs and, of course, a Highland cow and horses. So that's all down the pipeline. But the majority of it is pasture that I lease out for cattle, Angus mostly. But so it works out really great because I get to look at the cows and I don't have to worry about taking care of them or anything.
Yeah, very cool. Well, congratulations to you, Dennis, on getting back to broke. This is an important milestone. I love it every time we bring somebody on that's gotten here because it gives hope to a huge percentage of doctors out there that are not yet back to broke, that literally have a negative net worth. So if you're in that situation, there is hope. Put your nose to the grindstone, put a big percentage of that income you're earning toward building wealth. You too can get back to broke. Dennis, thanks for coming on the podcast and sharing your experience.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Jim.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that interview. It's always nice to talk to a rural doc, right? So many of you in high cost of living areas, and I might be there soon. Utah used to be moderate, and it's definitely getting closer to a high cost of living area these days. But those of you who live in, California or, Seattle, most of the East Coast, those are expensive areas to live in. Docs tend to actually not get paid more there, unlike everybody else working there. Attorneys working there and finance people working there, they tend to get paid more. That's not the case for docs. So when docs leave a high cost of living area and go to a low cost of living area, not only does their cost of living go down, their tax burden generally goes down significantly, and their income generally goes up. That's huge, right? This is geographic arbitrage. To take these skills, go somewhere else where you pay more, where it costs less to live. And it's amazing how far you can get ahead financially. Now, I know not everybody wants to live on 46 acres, right? The last thing you want next to your house is sheep or pigs or goats or cows or whatever. I get it, right? This isn't for everybody, but bear in mind, there's lots of geographic arbitrage where you're not going to live on a farm or a ranch, right? So keep that in mind as an option. Now, for lots of people, they love everything about the high cost of living area they live in. Their family's there. Their spouse's family's there. There's no way they're leaving. I get it. I get it. Just be aware that this is an option for lots and lots of docs out there that maybe didn't consider it, didn't realize how beneficial it might be. I mean, it might be the difference between retiring 5 years, 8 years earlier, that sort of a thing. It might be having a house 3 times the size of what you're going to get in your high cost of living area. Maybe you can go on twice as many, fancy vacations a year. Maybe you can pick up an expensive hobby like flying planes. I don't know what you're going to do with that as extra finances. But the truth is, if you move and practice somewhere else, there's going to be extra finances. So be aware of that possibility. Certainly help this doc, even with a relatively high loan burden, get back to broke in just 2 years out of training. Okay, I promised you at the beginning we're going to talk about some nuances with the Backdoor Roth IRA and the Mega Backdoor Roth IRA. The first one is to remember the Backdoor Roth IRA process is done with an IRA. The Mega Backdoor Roth IRA process is not done with an IRA. It is done with a 401k. Okay, so in both cases, you make non-deductible contributions to a retirement account. And in both cases, you do a Roth conversion. With the regular backdoor Roth IRA process, you contribute to a traditional IRA, then move the money to a Roth IRA. With the Mega Backdoor Roth IRA process, you make an after-tax employee contribution to your 401k or 403b, and then you do a Roth conversion on that within the plan, usually. I mean, it's possible to take it out of the plan in some plans and put it in a Roth IRA. But most of the time, you're doing an in-plan conversion. There is a pro rata calculation that occurs with the backdoor Roth IRA, such that you need to empty out all of your traditional IRAs by the end of the year. Traditional IRAs, simple IRAs, SEP IRAs. Got to be $0 on 12/31/2024 for last year, or 2025 for this year, whatever. Or you're going to get prorated. Now, it's not the end of the world if you get prorated on $7, the $7 in interest that money made in your traditional IRA while I was waiting for the conversion step. Yes, the best thing to do is do another $7 Roth conversion and get rid of that. But it's not the end of the world if you get prorated on that. That doesn't defeat the purpose of doing the Roth IRA. You just clean that up the next year. The next year you do a Roth conversion of, your $7,000 if you're under 50 plus that $7, and you convert it then. No big deal. Okay. With the mega backdoor Roth IRA, there is no pro rata calculation. It doesn't matter what's in your traditional SEP or simple IRAs. You never get prorated with the mega backdoor Roth IRA process. Hope that's helpful. Another issue that comes up every January is people get frustrated. It's particularly frustrating if you start your backdoor Roth IRA process in December. December is not backdoor Roth IRA time. January is backdoor Roth IRA time. So don't mess with it in December, because what happens to people is they make the contribution in December, then all of a sudden their brokerage or mutual fund company, their IRA custodian, wherever it is, decides they want your money to clear, to settle, before they let you move it to another account like a Roth IRA. So they force you to sit in the traditional IRA until the end of the year, till that money settles, and then you didn't do your conversion in the same year. Now that can cause a big problem with the pro rata issue, especially if you did any sort of Roth conversion in the prior year. So in general, don't make your contribution in December, right? You can do a contribution for the previous year until your tax day in the next year. So there's no rush to do it before December 31st. All right. So you can just wait till January of 2025 and do your backdoor Roth for 2024. That's not a big deal. The paperwork's a little more complicated than if you do it in the same calendar year, but it's not a big deal. You can do the paperwork. I assure you, it's not that complicated. I'll walk you through it on my backdoor Roth IRA tutorial. Keep in mind that this occurs at different speeds at different places. Okay, like Fidelity's kind of been known for waiting forever for your money to settle. Like I've heard as many as 16 business days. So it's probably best, if you're going to do the backdoor Roth IRA, the best thing to do is to already have your money where it's going to be, right? If you're going to do a traditional IRA contribution at Vanguard, have your money at Vanguard in your brokerage account. If you're going to do it at Fidelity, have the money at Fidelity. Have it settled before the start of the year. That's the fastest way to do the Roth IRA. With E-Trade, I think you can do both the contribution and the conversion on January 2nd. Obviously, January 1st is a holiday. With Schwab, if the money's already there, I think you can do both steps on January 2nd. With Vanguard, they make you wait a day. You do your contribution on January 2nd, you do your conversion on January 3rd. Okay. If you've already got the money at Fidelity, you can do that as well. If you don't, you might be doing the contribution on January 2nd, and you might be doing the conversion on like January 20th or something. Similar problem at Vanguard. They usually don't make you wait as long, but it's not unusual to wait 4, 5, 7 days at Vanguard if the money's not settled there. If it's coming from your bank account, you make your contribution January 2nd, and they're like, nope, you got to wait till it settles before you can do your conversion. It's not the end of the world. It just means your money's going to earn a few bucks in interest, and you can convert those dollars too. That's not a big deal. Yes, if it makes $7, you got to pay tax on $7, but you can afford that, I assure you. All right. So hope that's helpful in sorting out backdoor Roth IRAs this year. This has been the Milestones to Millionaire podcast. We want you guys to come on this podcast. You can sign up. You can apply for it at whitecoatinvestor.com/milestones. We'll celebrate any milestone with you. I don't care what it is. You bought a beater, you paid off a cat loan. I don't care. We'll celebrate your milestone with it. We'll find a way to use it to inspire others to accomplish their own milestones. So thank you for those we've had on this podcast. We've done 207 of these now. So we've had 207 of you on this podcast, a few of you twice, telling us about your milestones. And we appreciate all the guests we've had. I know a lot of people out there have listened to every single one of these, and they find your stories inspiring. They're a few years behind you and want to accomplish what you've accomplished. Earlier, we mentioned working locums with CompHealth, the #1 staffing agency. But CompHealth isn't just a locums agency. CompHealth staffs regular permanent positions across the nation as well. They also offer telehealth, medical missions, and more. And that's what makes them unique. They can look at your situation and offer multiple solutions to build your career the way you want it and meet your financial goals. And they know their stuff, especially when it comes time to negotiate contracts, which they're willing to do for you. So whatever career move you're looking for, go to whitecoatinvestor.com/comphealth and use the power of CompHealth to build your career your way. All right, that's it for this week. We'll see you next time, next Monday, with another Milestones to Millionaire podcast. Until then, keep your head up, shoulders back. You've got this. The whole community is standing here ready to help you. See you next time on the podcast.
The hosts of The White Coat Investor are not licensed accountants, attorneys, or financial advisors. This podcast is for your entertainment and information only. It should not be considered professional or personalized financial advice. You should consult the appropriate professional for specific advice relating to your situation.